Today I will be putting that thing in there. So first of all, sorry this video is in selfie mode. I actually used to do my videos like this, but I don't like doing them like this anymore. I have a better camera, but my batteries are charging and I have to install this before tomorrow because I may need it clearing out like a kind of a trail onto like a 10-acre plot of land. But installing the winch today and doing it with my cell phone. Anyway, Smittybilt M1 bumper, 2007 Toyota FJ Cruiser, and a worn VR10 Evo steel cable winch. I went with the steel cable winch because the synthetic cable winch was about the price of a steel cable winch plus a synthetic cable. So I figure in the future I'll replace the steel cable with the synthetic cable. So why not just buy the steel cable one for now and then change it out whenever I want to in the future. So a synthetic cable winch is generally safer. If the cable were to snap, the way that it is under tension is not as deadly as the steel cable is whenever it's under tension. And not to mention, it's also lighter. Anyway, that's what I wanted. That's what I got. Complain if you want. It's my vehicle. But this is just going to be a basic unboxing installation video. So I'll be going through the full installation of it. This one seems to have a charger for a wireless remote. So I'm hoping this model actually came with that. I didn't see that on the description when I bought it, but this model is sold with that, but I'm not sure if that's the one that I got. So we'll see. Hopefully it did. So I've already opened the box, as you can see, and I've already opened the instructions and flipped through those. These actually came sealed, and I opened the plastic, but it comes packed really well because it's a pretty heavy thing. Evo install guide, and then this is just the operator's manual. So this is just what I'm going to be going by, and this is the controller box removal instructions, just in case you have to remove the controller box. What's weird is it's the same thing on both sides. So if you spill coffee on one side, then oh hey look, there's another side. So that's where that is. Ground cable. Oh, I'm sorry, remote. It looks like the wireless remote. Remove battery tab before use. And there's the hardware. Okay, so now I have the hardware, I can get started. So flipping through this install guide, it shows you what bolts go where, so your hardware it's in the bags, but it doesn't show you anything more than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the fair lead first. I'm going to put it where the warning label is facing up because, I mean, what good is a warning label if it's facing down? This winch is made to bolt down to 4.5 by 10. My winch tray, the bolt holes are made to accept the width of 10 inches and 4.25 to 5 inches. So it looks like it's going to fit perfectly. It's a little bit wider than the hole, and also the controller box does need to come off in order to slide the bumper back on. And then looking at the cables and everything, everything's already connected to the control box on this, except the only wire that's not connected is the ground wire, and that's what this nut is here. So there's not a lot of wiring that you have to do on this. You just have to connect this to your positive terminal on your battery, and then you have to connect the negative cable to your negative terminal on your battery. Alright, so I'm pretty much ready for everything to go in. I'll be pulling the bumper off next, but these D-rings, I've got those loosened up. The fair lead, I've positioned it to where you can look through it and you can't see anywhere that the cable could, the steel cable could rub along metal. And this has two little bolt holes in it. The fair lead does, so it's got this bolt hole and this bolt hole. I'm using the upper one. Warning sign still facing up, and it's nice and sturdy. I used my black bolts that came with the bumper because the hardware is like that dull gray finish, and I didn't want that, so I wanted the black. And if you do switch out to some kind of black bolt, don't just use anything. Use something that's rated for the the stress that it's going to be put under having it here. I'm getting fingerprints all over this thing. Horrible, horrible me. The ground wire, I ran it along the part of the chassis, and I have it fastened in with zip ties, not close to anything hot, not close to the condenser. That's the only zip tie that I haven't cinched down yet. I'll cinch that one down after I connect the ground wire here to the once the winch is in. I made sure that nut on the back of the winch that's for the ground, that was loose, but the ground wire goes along there, under the headlights, snakes through this hole. And this was my idea. I don't think anybody else has done this. This is kind of like just something that I came up with. And you can see what I did, and this is like the same thing. I basically just took a bolt and then ran a nut through it all the way. And that ground wire is sandwiched between the head of the bolt and this nut. And I just locked that down. What that does is that gives you a better ground connection into the clamp. Because if I were to connect it straight under the head of the bolt, I have to bend that ground wire, and even if I ran it through from this side, I have to snake the ground wire around. It's not as clean. This makes a lot cleaner of a setup because I can run it alongside the post without having to bend the eye on the ground wire in. And you're saying like, well, why don't you just mount it to the chassis? You don't want to mount it to the chassis anywhere because this ground wire is a thinner gauge than this ground wire. See, this one's fat. This one's like 3/8 of an inch thick with a sheath. I don't know what gauge this is, but it's huge. And this is only about 1/4 inch thick. So that's considerable size difference. So I have this going straight onto the negative post. I didn't want to put it anywhere else. And then I've got that soaking in PB Blaster. I sprayed that. I'm just going to put the positive wire straight on the top. The bumper is off. The winch is dropped in. Guiding the cable in is a little bit difficult, mainly because there's a bracket back here that pushes against the control box of the Warren. So I actually just I cut the top of this and I bent it around, but I'm going to bend the rest of this. Getting the winch in is easier if the FJ Cruiser front grille is taken off, at least with a Smittybilt M1 bumper. So the power cable, I'm not going to route it beside the ground cable, just so the small chance that this cable and that cable would maybe heat up too much and melt into each other, and then I would have an electrical fire because it would be connecting positive straight to negative with no fuse. Maybe I'll put one on in the future just for safety. Easy way to remedy that is just to run the cable in a way to where it's not around heat, and it's also not next to the negative cable, just in case. I have this ready to go on pretty much. I'm going to bolt this in first to the back of the winch, and then lock down the winch, and then feed this through so that I can put it all back together. All right, it's done. It's on. So I loosened the controller box, took it off. Didn't take it fully off with the wires. I just moved it forward so that my girlfriend could hold it, and I could slide the bumper on in place. So that worked really well. And then I just started making a mount. It actually says the dimensions of the bottom of the controller box on this, 95 millimeters by 115 millimeters. So I just drew that out. I hammered down the back so that whenever it's sitting like this, the back of it follows the curve of the winch, and the wires that would be going over the left side as you're looking at the winch wouldn't grab on any sharp metal, even though this isn't really sharp, but road vibrations, off-road vibrations, I don't want the metal to wear the wire down. So this is where the winch is going to mount, and this is where the controller box is going to mount. It's going to move it forward, I don't know, 2 inches. It's enough to bring it level with the front of the bumper, and this is still under my controller box, so you won't see the front of this when you're looking at it. And I also just happen to have, I have buckets and buckets of screws and washers just from where I've done engine swaps and swapped out, like people blew their engine or whatever. I'll just take every usable bolt from it. This will be on the winch side holding it to the bracket, and then these will be holding the bracket to the controller box. Alright, it's all done, as you can see. This is a little bit more visible than I wanted it to be, and as you can see, I also added little spacers, which means I had to get bolts that were about half an inch longer, because this takes up about it's like 3/8 of an inch, I think, thickness. It's not quite a half inch, but those little spacers are 3/8 of an inch, so I had to go a little bit longer on the little bolts that go into to the controller, but also there are no bolts in the back holding the controller box on, which I don't like too much. I got to figure out a way to remedy that. So that's just going to be something that I'll be working on in the future. Whoever's watching this, you could hopefully you could figure out your own way. But it's snug. It's not really going anywhere. What happened was the hole that I drilled, it is directly on top of this little panel that comes out of the winch. So that little plate that the controller box attaches to, it's in the way of my hole that I drilled, so I can't put a bolt through it unless I drill through that plate, and that's not something that I want to do. So I'll figure something out with that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. But these are pretty tight. These screws that I ended up using, they weren't these. These were too short. I had to grab some longer ones. So you will need at least an inch. The ones that I used were about an inch. Maybe slightly longer, but they were also automotive grade, so I don't have to worry about them rusting. And I put a washer and a lock washer in there, so it's not going to come loose. And I also put the nut side up, so you can see there, that nut and that lock washer, they're on the top side because I didn't want it to come anywhere near the cable where it could possibly snag and hang underneath this this plate that the controller box mounts to. But that's it. It's fully on. That's pretty much it. It's done, and I've got my little camera, my little winch cam there. That's ready to go. So I could probably operate it from inside the vehicle if I wanted to, but that camera hasn't been used in so long, I'm not even sure if it works. Follow on to the next video if you want to see my camera set up. I ordered some more camera equipment to upgrade my camera, which may include adding in a winch cam, so that way I can sit in the interior, watch the winch. So it would really just be aiming down. So it would really just be like a winch or parking cam with this aiming down. But it's mainly a forward-facing cam that'll be on top, mounted on the roof rack, and a reverse camera. So mimicking my old setup that I had that's in my earlier videos. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and I do hope that this is a helpful, informative video. So please like, subscribe, comment, and God bless you guys.